remember years ago, I got my real estate license, and about a year or two after that, I really wanted to take my business seriously. I remember not having as many clients as I wanted, and I really wanted to go from like 0 to 100. And the way that I thought I can pull that off was by getting a business coach. So I remember hiring this business coach. He's about $500 a month. This guy named Craig Valentine. Fantastic coach, by the way. Had a great experience with him. I would highly recommend looking into him. He's a very interesting guy. He said something to me one time that was super profound. And what he said to me was, the quality of your life is determined by the quality of the questions you asked. This blew my mind. Honestly, it blew my mind when I first heard about this. The quality of your life is determined by the quality of the questions you asked. Now, for anyone who knows me or who doesn't know me, I don't like pointless questions. I hate when people just ask questions for the sake of asking questions. And I think most people do this. Most people just ask questions like instantly without really putting much time or thought into the question itself and without putting much time or effort into actually trying to solve their own problems. Something comes to mind and they just start asking questions, and it's pointless, it's tedious, it wastes time. I hate it. And I didn't want to be that person. So what I started doing at that point was thinking about what questions should I be asking? What things do I not know? Because there are things in life you don't know that you don't know. And the more questions you ask, the closer you can get to learning those things, the more you can get to understanding more things. And so I shut off my brain for a bit and kind of just took the philosophical approach and thought to myself, I know absolutely nothing. And since I know nothing, everything is a potential to learn. There are many questions I could be asking. But I try to figure out what was the best question. Is there a superior question that sort of reigns above every other question? And the more I thought about it, the more I concluded, yes, there are some questions that are better than others. And there is a question, a specific question, that is superior to other general questions. And so what is that question? I want to share that with you in this video. What's the best question you can possibly ask? The best question you could ever ask is not who, it's not what, it's not where, it's not when. It's why. Why is the best question you could ever ask? And now you might be thinking to yourself, well, why? Why is why the best question? And you asking the question is exactly the point that I want to make in this video. The reason why is such a good question, the reason why it's the best question to ask is because asking why gets to the root of a problem. It gets to the core, the essence of what you're trying to learn. You don't get to the core by asking who, you don't get to the core by asking what, but you do get to the core and the essence of a problem or a concept by asking why. Why matters the most. So just to kind of illustrate this point, I want to share a quick story with you. This is in 2016 or so. I was like super set on going to law school. That was sort of the plan at this point. I pretty much in undergrad had decided that my major was criminology. And the reason why I chose criminology was because I planned on becoming an attorney. I was sort of in between entertainment law and corporate law. I hadn't really picked which one I was more set on doing. I remember at the time I was talking to other attorneys I knew and people, different teachers that I had that were attorneys or judges, and they all pretty much confirmed that you don't need to know which type of attorney you want to be when you get to law school. You'll kind of figure that out on the way, and then once you leave law school, that'll probably be the real time when you figure out what you want to practice, which type of law you practice. So I kind of knew the what. I knew what I had in mind as far as what I wanted to practice. That box was checked off. When was also checked off. I pretty much decided that I wanted to go to college in January. Long story short, I'll talk about this in a different video, but I'd been kicked out of college twice at this point. So around 2017, when I graduated, I'd already been kicked out twice. It was sort of a grueling experience to kind of get back in school twice, take a bunch of classes, cram a bunch into a single year or so, and then try to get out as quickly as possible because I was done. I was done with taking undergrad classes at this point. And I wanted to give myself a few months to kind of just relax and not think so much about school. And just, enjoy life, go out, party, all that stuff. Because I didn't really get to do as much of that as I wanted to as a student. So my plan was to start in January of 2018. So the when was decided. As far as the where, my plan was to go to Georgetown. I took the LSATs, I got to Georgetown. I was debating between Georgetown and Penn State. Penn State had a law school as well. And the reason why I was kind of in between those two was because Georgetown is, of course, a much better law school. I thought I'd get more long-term benefits of having Georgetown as the school I went to. Penn State, on the other hand, was sort of my backup, and my thought process was if my LSAT scores weren't good enough, or if my GPA for whatever reason wasn't good enough for Georgetown, then Penn State would be the go-to option, especially because it's close. It was more familiar, because I knew exactly what law school was. It was just right off campus. I was familiar with the area, and Penn State had a good acceptance rate, from what I understood, if you graduated from their undergrad program. And so that was sort of my main two options. There were other schools I looked at too, but I didn't really care about them as much. It was really Penn State or Georgetown. And so the idea was to go to Georgetown in January and begin in the spring semester. So the where, the what, and the when was all decided. But the more I thought about it, as it came closer to the time to decide what I was going to do with my life, I still felt a bit weird about something. Like something just wasn't really clicking with me. And really what it came down to is I had checked off the other questions, but I didn't ask why. I never really sat there and thought to myself, why do I want to go to law school in the first place? Why do I want to be an attorney in the first place? So I remember kind of sitting there and asking myself, why do I want to be an attorney? And really, when I was honest with myself, there were two main reasons. The two main reasons were I wanted status and I wanted money. I really thought that if I became an attorney, I'd make a lot of money. And I thought that with the money would come status, but I also thought that, if you're an attorney, you can tell people, hey, I'm a lawyer. And then people would be super excited. Oh my God, you're a lawyer. You're so cool. And once I sort of was honest with myself, asked why, and found out my reasons, I kind of dug deeper into a rabbit hole, started asking people if this was a good decision, asked other people who were attorneys, what they thought about my reasoning. And really what I found out is that it was stupid. My reasons for being an attorney were dumb, and they didn't really make that much sense. I spoke to a lot of attorneys when it came to money. They were saying that pretty much all of them were saying that you don't necessarily make that much money as an attorney. It's not always worth it. I knew a few attorneys who they made good money, but the problem is that they worked so much that they couldn't enjoy the money the way they thought they would be able to. And it almost like invalidated the money that they earned in the first place. And I also do remember that there were a few attorneys who did make good money, but it took them such a long time to get that money. These are people who were partners, which meant they had to be at the law firm for about 10 years, 15 years or so, and then they became a partner. Then they started making good money, but it took 10 to 15 years after they graduated from law school. So it took a while. Then there were other attorneys I knew who went to, they got out of college, or they got out of law school, and they couldn't find a good job as an attorney right away at a good law firm. And so what they did was they went to criminal, some were defense attorneys, and they told me that the pay was terrible. They said the pay wasn't good, the work was horrible, you had to defend people that you weren't interested in defending.
But yeah, so I remember even one guy, I met this one attorney, I was at a party, and I met this attorney, and I was kind of explaining the exact same thing. Like I was thinking about going to law school, trying to figure out if I'm making a good decision. And I remember him telling me, he was an attorney for the government. I think he was like agricultural law, which I didn't even know was a thing. And he explained that he made about like $140K, and he was like, it's a good income. He's like, but it took him like 10 to 15 years to get it. He works a lot. I think he said on average he works about 12 to 14 hours, like 5 or 6 days a week, and he hated it. And then he said that his wife actually became a real estate agent, and she had like no formal educational background. Like I think she barely went to college. She had an undergrad, and that was about it. She took her real estate license. She got a real estate license, and she was making about $400K. So she made more money than him, and she had more flexibility because, anyone who knows about real estate, it's not really, you don't have to be at the office. It's more flexible when it comes to your daily schedule because it's more like a business than an actual employed position. So it was interesting. So pretty much by me asking why, I kind of made a new decision, and I ended up choosing to not go to law school. But I wouldn't have come to that conclusion had I not asked why. Like I mentioned earlier, by asking why, you really get to the root of a problem. It forces you to think critically about whatever situation or scenario or about a concept that you have. You're able to come up with a good answer or good solutions to your problems. Something similar happened years ago as well. Back when I was an undergrad student, I was planning on, when I first went to Penn State as an undergrad, I was an engineering major. At least that was what my intent was, to become an engineering major and declare that at the end of my sophomore year. And at the time, I was debating between industrial engineering and biomedical engineering. I was really leaning more towards biomedical engineering, mainly because one of my goals at the time was to learn more about prosthetics. I was really fascinated by prosthetic limbs, and I wanted to kind of work on that more after college. And I remember not thinking so much about why, but I did at one point ask myself, why did I want to be an engineer? I think because so many people were asking me what my motivation to be an engineer was. In a roundabout way, I asked why. Like, why did I want to be an engineer? And it was kind of the exact same thing. Really, it was less, because at the time, my real reason was for money. I just wanted money. That was really it. I wanted money. And the more I thought about it, and the more I kind of weighed the pros and cons, as a result of asking why, the more I realized that being an engineer was not the best fit for me. Some engineers will sit there and say, oh, it's because you didn't want to do like calculus and stuff like that. I know a lot of engineers, and they'll make it into a like an IQ type thing. That really wasn't it. It was just, I wasn't that interested in being an engineer in the grand scheme of things. I just wanted money. And if money is the thing that's motivating you, there's many ways to make money outside of just being a lawyer or an engineer. At least this is what I learned. And yeah, so the more I thought about it, the more I realized it wasn't a good fit. I thought more long term about what I would get as a benefit of being an engineer, what I'd have to give up, what I would gain. It didn't make much sense to me. Some of the things I wanted to do in my life, and I'll talk more about this in a different video, but some of the things I wanted to do with my life didn't quite match what I would get if I did graduate as an engineer. And so, like I said, the only way I kind of got to these conclusions was by asking why. Why gets to the core of your problem. It forces you to think critically about things. So this is kind of just the point of this video. This is what I wanted to leave you with. Do your best. My takeaway from this video: ask questions more frequently. Ask questions in general. Assume you know nothing at all times, and just ask questions. Don't be that person that asks like stupid questions or just asks questions solely for the sake of asking questions. Like, really try to think about things you don't understand or things you can't comprehend, and ask high quality questions to fill in gaps in your knowledge. Do that. But most importantly, ask why. Ask why about everything. As a quick side note before I end the video, I consider children to be like little geniuses. I think children are geniuses, and I think over time, what people do is society and adults, they kind of rip the genius out of children. And I think if you listen to children, one of the biggest things that they do, much to the annoyance of the adults around them, at least specifically their parents, is kids ask why for everything. We need to go to sleep. Why do we need to go to sleep? We need to eat these foods. Why do we need to eat these foods? We need to go to the store. Why do we need to go to this place? We need to do A, B, and C. We need to wake up at 8 a.m. so you can go to school today. Why do I need to wake up so early? Why do I even need to go to school? Why should I be doing this? Why this? Why that? They ask why about everything. They're always asking questions. Specifically, they're asking why. And this is what makes them such geniuses, because if people were to sit there and actually give them what they're asking for, give them the solutions to their questions, imagine how much more intelligent kids could be. Like, they're already smart. They already know to ask that question naturally. But really what happens is that as they get older, the adults around them, specifically their parents again, don't want to answer that question. They don't want to answer why. And so kids kind of condition themselves into understanding that that question will not get answered, so I won't bother asking it ever again. And so they grow up never asking why ever again, and they become the adults like the rest of us who just never ask questions, and specifically they never ask why. So again, this is my takeaway. Ask why more often. Remember the lesson that my business coach taught me. The quality of your life is determined by the quality of the questions you ask. If you want to have a high quality life, the best thing you can do is to ask the highest quality question. Ask why more often.